Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Geek Bytes podcast, episode number 168 of the show. I'm Ramon Mejia.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody woken up. I'm Edgardo Acosta.
You're going to move it a little closer to the side.
Yeah.
We go.
There we go.
There we go.
Gonna be a little more professional about that kind of stuff.
See, we're all in frame now.
Hey, everybody.
In every single podcast, we bring you the round of the week's best geek and tech news. We'll discuss that news and, of course, anything else we happen to be interested in this week. In the geek news, we have some great stuff, including...
We're going to be talking about robots on the move, the WWE controversy, Venom money, canceled Marvel shows, Power Rangers versus Street Fighter, movie trailer Showdown, and more.
Absolutely. Of course, we begin with geek news. Conception Acosta has joined. I always love the way that Facebook Live phrase, like, oh, this person has joined. Like, oh, he's joined the battle. It's like one of those fighting games. Yeah. Okay, so first story in Geek News is going to be talking about robots. Robots have been doing well and interesting. This week, Boston Dynamics recently showed off what the robots were up to, and it looks both terrifying and amazing. We're going to show you a couple YouTube clips just to give you a hint of what they've been up to. We have Boston Dynamics here. Let's see.
At Fidelity,
the parkour robot. Yeah.
Are just $4.99.
They gotta get theirs too.
Yeah, ads too.
Yeah, we'll get ours, but they'll get theirs eventually.
Yes. So we basically have a Boston Dynamics robot doing parkour as he's running through, playing. It's honestly a little terrifying that the robot is in better shape than I am. I won't be able to run upstairs as a way to avoid the robots anymore.
And look at it; it's getting thinner and smaller, more compact. They're pretty much going to be the Terminator robots.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, look at this running down this nice neighborhood.
Grass.
Just imagine with a gun or murdering people as they're running away, and it never tires.
As long as
you thought you could foil me with this log, I'll show you.
As long as it's not wearing a hoodie, I think you'll be all right.
Yeah. So that's just kind of scares at how quickly it moves. Next thing you know,
but I
definitely can't afford that music.
No, right.
But this is basically another robot.
The animal one,
the dog version, who's doing a nice dance routine to what is it called, Uptown?
Yeah, Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars.
So it's there. That's you have to imagine the music playing.
But I swear that armature, it might as well be a cannon, a gun or something or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, the head arm, the thing that actually will open doors.
Yeah.
So what the other robot can't do is open doors, but this one, it just reaches out like a claw and
once again, look at it.
Turns
they miniaturize it. Remember the first one? It was literally like a donkey. It was like a huge bulk.
No. And this one definitely also has the internal battery supply. Yeah. The original ones had these huge bulky motors and it's been refined and it looks super cute doing the moonwalk.
Well, my part is I don't know which one, if I'm looking at its butt or if I'm looking at its front.
It doesn't matter to it. I think there's another video of it showing going around a construction site, scanning things and looking for things that were wrong or incorrect, kind of doing a walk around.
Wow.
And it would go both ways, one and forth. And I'm like, oh, that seems both terrifying and super exciting. Terrifying the fact that, those fears and foibles, the robot uprising. But at the same time, it's oh, you don't have to pay some guy $20-$30 an hour. You're going to send a robot to go do quality control. And it'll find its way around. It goes moving completely autonomously around the entire floor, going around obstacles, hopping over things, going through doorways and hallways, and doing its scans. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool because that reduces the cost of labor.
Okay, in the robot world, what are you waiting that you think is missing?
I still want a robotic chef. I wouldn't mind one of those robotic arms that just grabs pans and just starts cooking stuff. I'll be more than happy to supply it with all the ingredients as long as it, of course, recognizes them and does its thing and have fresh, healthy meals every day. I'm still waiting to live in the Jetson world.
Yeah, they semi have something like that, especially they have these little rotating pots, if you will. They add heat, so it throws the ingredients in there, rotates them around, and it will cook it for you. The only part that I kind of questioned, that was a little scary to me, and it's something, have you ever seen what was it? Batman Mask of the Phantasm? It's once you give a robot a knife. It starts having the chop and everything.
It's no more dangerous than just giving it a hand. I mean, hands can grab things and murder you just as easily as a weapon. But I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, projectile knives especially.
Now, in other tech news, I guess, there's a new PSN exploit. Apparently, some folks have been getting some very interesting mail on their PlayStation networks. Hector Soto in chat room on Facebook says, hey, give us a nice thumbs up.
Hey, Hector. What's up, man?
Good to see you, man. And basically, it's been crashing some people's PS4s, which super sucks because it's you get a notice and it's like, oh, you click on the message and a bunch of word code, and the next time you start your PS4, it's like, oh, it doesn't work. It'll brick it sometimes.
So what is it, like the equivalent of the ring of death?
Sort of, except that it's intentionally inserted. It's being
a bad email, like
people are hypothesizing that the email has a string of nonsense code that crashes your system.
Wow.
So it's intentional, like almost like a hacking virus, one of those things, and PlayStation Network has finally said something. They're saying, oh, you can actually delete that email if you reset your console to factory settings, or if you haven't opened it, you can actually go into your PS Messenger in the safe mode and then delete it safely without it actually having to read it. And there's similar workarounds. Apparently, we have a link in the show notes for folks who have been impacted by that and want a way to fix it.
Usually especially it's the email scam, is either the Nigerian prince. If you're a dude, make your penis bigger.
Right.
You won the social contest.
Sure.
And the other one that I usually get is, here's the packing information for your delivery.
Oh yeah, from something
Amazon.
Or here's we've approved your loan or something. Yeah. But mostly this would be more like, oh, you're getting an email, you opening it, and then your computer exploding or just like stop working. That would be what this is essentially. And PlayStation Network users just aren't used to that, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is a fun story. This is our next story with the WWE and Saudi Arabia and the John Oliver show. It's a slightly complicated bit of storytelling, but I thought it was super interesting, especially since you're into wrestling so much. I thought it was fun. The whole situation came to most people's attention thanks to John Oliver's Last Week Tonight on October 14, 2018. The episode in which John Oliver discussed the disappearance of US-based Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi in their embassy. Essentially, the story is that we have video footage of him entering the embassy, but never coming out. And he was missing for weeks and weeks, and people were wondering where he had went to, like if the Saudi government had murdered him. And the investigation had basically come to the conclusion that Saudi Arabia had flown in people to murder him with specific tools to kill him and chop him up with hacksaws. And that's what they think he did. Basically, he went in and he was murdered at the embassy for his own government. Even though he lives in the United States, so he went to the Saudi embassy here. And part of that particular piece from John Oliver was meant to show that the U.S. will look the other way when it comes to Saudi Arabia and a lot of like human rights issues and other issues like this, like an actual murder, just because that we buy their oil from them cheap and we also sell them weapons. And part of that piece was like him essentially epitomizing nothing's more American than the WWE. And going into a long piece about how Saudi Arabia has tried to make over their image with a campaign called Saudi Vision 2030. And one of the things they did was pay the WWE $40 to $50 million to essentially do like a great Royal Rumble. Not once, but twice. The second one is coming up later. And showing how the WWE not only was taking their money and doing the performance, but also like super promoting the Saudi government as being, oh, they're so forward thinking, and look, they let women drive now. We're not letting women wrestle, but they're in the audience this time. So progress is being made for this forward thinking country. And a lot of those things are genuinely true when it comes to Saudi Arabia. Like women going to sporting events at all is apparently a huge thing for the country, where women have very strict roles according to the actual law.
They're still put in their place, don't get me wrong.
Right, but again,
they're being allowed.
Right, and that's kind of what it is. And it's just like, oh, Americans looking at this hypocrisy saying, yeah, you'll take their money and you'll do what they say as long as they pay you well. And the WWE got a flood of comments from wrestling fans and just people around the world.
Patriotic fans, other ones that don't care. It's affecting everybody because it's like, okay, there's a country that they're doing some shady kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want your product, your national-born, represented pro-patriotic product going to that country?
Correct. And that's kind of what it came down to for the WWE and a lot of their fans. Like if you look at the Twitter feed, they have reams and reams of like tweets, pro and con, basically. A lot of them were saying that, no, I'm going to cancel my WWE subscription. I'm not watching this program as long as they are, supporting this kind of behavior. And And to be fair, a lot of people were advertising for the Saudi Vision 2030, not just like major companies, Twitter, Facebook, Google. They were all involved in like promoting because they see it as a new open marketplace. And a lot of them have pulled out of this particular promotion and this particular conference of 2030, Saudi 2030, because one, like people are just getting murdered because they disagree with the government, and two, they see it as a larger issue of like human rights violations that the country has historically done, or from our point of view, I should say, has done, and people's rights. And so it became this big thing. And at one point, I think that the WWE even be like, "Oh, people, we have heard your opinions that you don't want us to do Saudi Arabia," and they've made other statements to other internet corporations, other people, saying we're currently monitoring the situation. And for a very brief time, it looked like public opinion had almost swayed the WWE, and that for a little while, the crown jewel event, which is the upcoming event in Saudi Arabia, was actually pulled off the schedule. But now it's back, and so it seems essentially like the WWE essentially like likes money more than the negative press from this.
The check cleared, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Like, oh, the check cleared, we got to go. Sorry, guys.
Exactly.
And so I'm kind of curious to see if even John Cena will show back up, because he was a major player in the last one. He came back essentially kind of out of retirement to come back and wrestle. I mean, he's famous enough. He's doing movies. He doesn't have to do this.
He's like the ultimate patriot kind of guy, especially. I don't know if you'll see like Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Hulk Hogan, especially here in the, I Am a Great American theme song.
Well, they did pull like a lot of like older wrestlers, because Saudi Arabia, in many like media senses, is still kind of stuck in the 80s.
Yeah,
and so a lot of those older characters kind of they make comebacks on this particular wrestling show.
Especially if they brought back the Sheik. Oh man, he would go so over.
Yeah, that would be a thing.
Yeah. But we'll see, because they did, especially for their last, I think it was the greatest Royal Rumble. They of course did not have any women. They did have eventually had a show where they allowed some of their female wrestlers participate, but they had to adapt their attire because they're not allowed to show skin. So they literally wore like bodysuits. Out of respect.
And this one they were basically said also recently, we're not going to have any women participating in the wrestling. Women will be allowed to attend though. That goes and that's kind of what it came out. So for me, this was a very interesting story just to see how the WWE was used as an example of like, this is how major corporations and major like entertainment industries are buying into this.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of seemed like a black eye on the WWE, but also I'm like, they don't really seem to care that it's a black eye as long as the check cleared. And for stockholders, it was a major win as far as like their stock goes. So that is essentially the story. Okay.
I just don't think you'll see Disney over there anytime soon.
You may. I mean, if
that check clears.
No. I mean, Disney doesn't care. I mean, they're a corporation as long as like their product is being shown. I mean, the Saudi Arabia just recently opened up movie theaters. Like for like the last 20 years, you couldn't show films
in the country.
To
certain music.
Exactly. And just only recently they opened up their first like major movie franchises showing actual movies.
Yeah.
So I mean Disney showed. I want to say the Disney showed actually Deadpool there, and it did decently. I know. So I'm like, Disney will show up if you pay the money, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving into some more entertainment stuff, we have Venom. Venom is making bank since the last time we were on the show. A lot of people thought it was going to tank. A lot of critics said bad things about it, that they didn't like it. There were issues. But the audience finally voted with their dollars. Apparently, opening weekend, they were projected to make like $50 million. They way overperformed, making $80 million that opening weekend, even though it's a 3-day kind of thing. And they broke a bunch of box office records. Like the one in October for the best record before that was Gravity in 2013 with an opening weekend of $55.68 million. So Venom knocked them out of the park at 80 million. And as of today, the film has grossed domestically 171 million and worldwide 460 million. So they made more around the world than they did in the US. So Venom, even though the movie has issues, apparently has been doing well. Have you seen that movie yet?
Not yet. Still wanted to see, because I once again the mixed reviews. But myself, I'm one of those. I'll go see it. I'll make my own judgment on it. But from close friends that are real big Venom fans and went to go see the movie, they said it was good. It was good. It was kind of beyond their expectations. Well,
it depends what your expectations are. If you think it's going to suck and anything's better than that, then yeah,
exactly.
It's definitely better than your expectations.
Yeah. So it's obviously done better. I've got a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to ruin it for the people that haven't seen it yet.
I think it's been weeks and weeks. It's okay. But yeah, my wife and I saw it. I think like last weekend. Eventually, we're like, oh, okay, I'll see if it goes well. She enjoyed it, but she doesn't know anything about Venom or Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Me, I was just like, wow, there's some issues here. Like the relationship between the Eddie Brock and his girlfriend, horrible. Like it's a horrible like. Those people should not be together. Like their chemistry sucks.
So it's like Jersey Shore kind of stuff.
Like they have very inert chemistry. Not even that good, to be honest. Like they try to be romantically interested in each other, but it comes off very fake. I feel like they're related, like they're siblings. That kind of relationship. Like that's about as much romance as you get. The relationship between Venom and Eddie Brock is different. It's very, like I said, it comes off very buddy cop-ish. And that one's cranky and one is like looking to do some stuff. And it's like the banter there is probably the best part of the entire movie. The action is decent, especially if, if you're just looking for something quick and easy. There were major plot holes in this movie, but it's at the same time, it's like, going with low expectations, you're probably going to be okay. Like I understand why people enjoyed it. But as somebody who was looking for like a better story or something related to Spider-Man, no, that isn't here at all. Like this is mostly just like, just an action romp, some quirky humor. The romance sucks, but it does a decent enough job to entertain you. Yeah, well, and that's kind of what like a lot of people think. And so, but hey, it's making money, so I mean it's gonna get a sequel.
Yeah.
So yeah, so expect to see other symbiotes there. I was actually super disappointed that I didn't see more symbiotes. Like there were just two.
I was gonna say there's just two that I know of.
No, there are just two. They have more. They captured more. Mm-hmm. Because again, the story is retconned a little bit. It's not like one alien Venom came from space and hooked up with Spider-Man, and then it started having kids, and replicating basically for the other Venom, like Carnage, and Carnage replicating somebody else, etc. And that's where your symbiotes come from. In this case, there's a whole asteroid full of symbiotes. And the space company just took a couple of samples of them. Those are the samples that we see here on Earth, and most of them die. Like they don't even get out of their like, who are we going to bond with stage? Oh. They die from various things, and so you only end up with two, Venom and Riot. That's it. And there are hints that there are going to be more later, with like a post-credit scene, but that's kind of it. So I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting at least like 3 or 4. Especially since they said they were pulling for a specific Venom story arc, which had like 4 or 5 different kind of Venoms in there.
We'll see how it goes.
So there you go. That's my opinion, but still, it was entertaining enough, I guess. I guess I'd see a sequel, but I'm a sucker. Okay, next one. James Gunn has been hired by Warner Brothers and DC to write the next installment of the Suicide Squad. So you're going to see him directing Suicide Squad 2. Dave Bautista was like, I would love to be in that film, since he's a big supporter of James Gunn. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's it. That's the story. So are you excited to see that James Gunn is going to continue doing superhero films?
Yeah, from what I heard on the storyline, this is just the rumor mill happening, that he's not going to try to have the Joker in it. They're not going to have the Jared Leto Joker in it.
Well, you don't really need him. He was only there because of Harley the first time.
Well, of course. And especially if there was, I'm trying to think of who they were trying to get Bautista to play in the DC world. I think it was going to be one of the guards or just some big player in it.
I would hope they wouldn't waste Dave Bautista on like some minor character who's going to die like in the first scene. Like somebody has to die in like that first quarter of the movie. Every Suicide Squad movie and comic, it's like, there's some rando who's just like, I'm not going to go along with this, and his head explodes, right? So somebody has to die every movie. I hope that's not going to be Dave Bautista, though.
Well, hopefully they hit it off, because obviously you caught the rumor mill. They're done with Affleck. They're done with Cavill.
No, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, Ben Affleck is out right now. We already know Henry Cavill's contract has finished, so he's no longer obligated to play that character. And negotiations for a new contract kind of broke down because he's like, I need more money now. Yeah. Like I've done these other films. I was just in that Mission Impossible movie. I'm doing great stuff. Yeah. So if you want me to continue serving, that's great. Just, where's the extra money? And I think a lot of it hung on to merchandising rights. Oh yeah. Like, I don't think it had an issue with like his actual salary for the movie. They're looking for a new Ben Affleck, a new Batman, I should say. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's nice to see that James Gunn is not out of, because a lot of people thought, oh no, James Gunn is dead for the entire industry because some Disney decided he wasn't clean enough or something for them. I'm like, no, that's these things happened a long time ago, and other studios understand this, and they're going to make up for your losses. Like, this is definitely a good pickup for DC.
Yeah, because if he could bring his magic that he brought to Guardians of the Galaxy, a franchise that still surprises me that did well at all, to the DC world with Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Hey, more power to him.
And Suicide Squad kind of has the same kind of vibe, like quirky, humorish stuff. So I think it'll work out really well. Okay, more entertainment news. Sad this week.
The heroes are higher, are fired.
Yeah, Netflix announced this week that they're not, well, last couple weeks, that they canceling not only Iron Fist, which I totally understood, but also Luke Cage, which I was less understanding about, to be honest. I mean, I watched the first season of Iron Fist. It sucked. I watched this part of the second season. I lost interest. Even though the martial arts was better in the second season, the storyline just, I'm like, I don't care about this character. I don't care if he lives or I don't care if he dies. And apparently, and this is spoiler, folks, so cover your ears. At the end of Iron Fist Season 2, the Iron Fist loses his powers. And the Asian girl becomes the new Iron Fist.
Good for her.
Yeah. And so that's a very interesting twist. So I'm like, that's curious. I never watched it, but again, that's kind of the issue with that show. But I watched all of Luke Cage season 1 and 2. I love season 1 a little bit better than season 2. But again, it had some very important issues that it talked about. So I was really surprised, especially since it was so popular that it got canceled. Now there's no word on whether the better performing Daredevil or Jessica Jones is also going to be canceled. Daredevil season 3 just started, so it's actually out on Netflix now. I haven't watched it yet, but again, it looks really good with the introduction of major Marvel characters. I mean, the Kingpin comes back, as do other characters as Bullseye. So, like, some fun stuff is there. But my personal speculation is that Marvel and Netflix were renegotiating which Marvel series are going to stay on Netflix and which ones are going to go to their new Disney streaming service. I think that's part of what Marvel and Netflix is like, okay, these are underperformers. We're going to try to put our most money on, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, maybe. Other fans are having other hypotheses. They're saying that Netflix is canceling Iron Fist and Luke Cage because they're planning to make a new show for the Heroes for Hire. So that's why they're not getting season 3s. They're going to put those two characters together to do a full, like, buddy series.
Hopefully it happens, because I can see it happening right now. There has been no official word of Disney pulling all their stuff from Netflix. Like, okay, you got to the end of the year, then we're done.
No, Disney has a contract with Netflix, and after that, they decided not to renew. So all the Marvel stuff, all the Marvel movies, they have an expiration date.
Yeah,
it's been like it was originally like all of Marvel and all the Disney films after a certain date are going to show up on Netflix, and then up to a certain date, they're not, and then they're all just going to all the event out that was made after a certain date is going to go to the Disney streaming service. So there were actual limitations on what Netflix is already doing because Disney wants its own content for its own streaming service.
Now, the only thing that would be questionable, if they do bring it, being Disney as it is, I think they're going to be a little careful on the rating on it. Because they'll definitely go PG-13 for sure. But I don't know if you're going to be seeing some of that sweet Luke Cage sex scenes from like what you saw on Netflix. That may be the case.
Like I said, Disney could have other plans for these series as well. And at some point, they just have to wait like, oh, we need content, and these are very popular shows. And I think that's what it might be for them. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, this is all pure speculation. We do know for sure, though, that Iron Fist and Luke Cage aren't getting a third season. So that is definitely for sure. Okay, speaking of things that are for sure, poor Flash. This is so sad for this. This has so many problems. It has a director. It was supposed to start filming this year. It should actually be finished by now, according to like their earlier schedule. But apparently, the filming of Flash is being pushed into 2019 with a release date of 2021.
Wow.
Super CGI in that film, so I kind of get the time frame difference. But still, that kind of sucks for that film because, man, that kid who's playing the Flash has been waiting for years and years and years to even start filming. Like, they've lost directors, they've had multiple script redos. That's what the delay is here. Apparently, the directors and the producers are revamping the script so that it makes a little more sense, and that's what the delay is apparently.
Right, they're waiting for James Gunn to clean that one up.
Maybe,
too.
Yeah, maybe they're waiting for James. He's like, oh, he's going to do Suicide Squad 2, and then we're going to hire him for this one because he does good filmmaking.
Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Then we'll base it on him.
I would love to see that this is like the turning point. Like, Marvel's mistake of firing James Gunn is what turns DC around.
Totally.
I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
Why not? Even give it to Kevin Smith. He has directed a couple Flash episodes and
Supergirls, and a bunch of other television shows. Yeah. But even he's a movie director.
And he's doing some stuff for DC on the streaming service as well.
Yeah. But still, I think he said personally, he's like, I have no interest in doing directing. Not that anybody's asked me. That kind of stuff. Because he's like, these are real movies with a lot of special effects.
That's true.
And he's like, I don't know if I could do that stuff.
He could do the whole
I think
commentary.
he could write a really good script. I think he could do that without a doubt. That'd be a lot of talking.
Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah, that's that poor Flash. Okay, on to Batman. Again, according to a new report from Variety, Warner Brothers is not moving forward with a Batman starring Ben Affleck and is actively seeking a different actor to replace the trouble star as the Dark Knight. And this is something most people have suspected for like a really long time, especially when like the director for like the new Batman movie is like, oh no, this is going to be way earlier. No old men in here at all. We're just going to do something new and fresh and new. But apparently there are rumors that Ben Affleck is going to cost way too much in insurance to continue putting him on these movies. And because of drugs and rehab, and any delays in a film costs a ton of money, and if he falls off the wagon, it's going to take like months and months to get him to rehab, and the studio has to eat those costs, and so insurance premiums apparently are going to be too much for them to justify keeping him going. Some people estimate like, oh, it would cost the studio as much as their whole filming budget in insurance premiums to put Ben Affleck back on the set, which is like, oh, that you're just doubling your budget if you put him in a movie at this point because of his issues. So it's sad to see Ben Affleck go. But he's publicly stated saying he completed rehab early, and he's been showing up to sets and on in the studio talking to people. And he said publicly that he wants to continue being Batman, that he feels like he has something less to give, and I think he doesn't want to leave it on a sucky note the same way he did Daredevil. Because that was always the thing with him, apparently, according to like sources like Kevin Smith and other people, that he loves superhero films and he loves comics, and he felt so bad when Daredevil didn't do well that he was hoping that Batman was going to be making up for him, and he's leaving on kind of a negative note as well.
Well, this is definitely an opportunity for some new blood. We need 2 new super friends to just jump on in and take over, because there's chops, as we're going to be covering right now. I'm hearing that they're eventually going to get a Batman for the TV series, because they do have a Batwoman.
They do. It just depends on how well she does. I don't doubt that DC is more than willing to shove like major characters into roles if they get the payback on that.
Yeah.
I feel like, but ratings for those shows have been steadily declining in the last couple seasons, and so which is why you're seeing some like secondary like major characters like Batwoman and not Batman. But in Supergirl, you have seen ratings boosting with Superman showing up for cameos, not major arcs though. With the exception like the most recent arc, which is going to be a crossover between all the Berlanti DC CW universes.
Arrowverse.
Yeah, it happens every year. There's a crossover between all the different shows. And there's a report coming out more recently that because Henry Cavill has vacated the place of Superman, that they're possibly thinking of doing a Superman television show. And people are hypothesizing that essentially the Superman who's currently on the CW is he's currently filming. They're currently filming their crossover episode. So you're seeing like I think the characters for the Arrow, Green Arrow, and Flash are switching roles. Like they're taking each other in an alternate universe, and in that alternate universe, you're also going to see black suited Superman and Lois Lane and Batwoman, and they're all doing a crossover in this big thing. But apparently, there's a major arc with Superman, and that's going to be essentially the backdoor pilot for a possible Superman television show. So they're basically saying, if this does well, if people respond to this Superman, we will greenlight his own show.
Nice.
And I think that will kill Supergirl. But that's me personally. I mean, that'd be super sad. But Superman versus Supergirl, I mean, Superman has so much more, play.
Yeah. Well, they're going to keep it pretty toned down, though, for television, because if they want to go the movie route, then yes, they would have to go the apocalypse route and have like a Darkseid abducting Supergirl and turning him into one of his ladies as Furies.
Oh no, they've done with Superman as well, like where he gets kidnapped and hypnotized. Yeah. But yeah, that's essentially what this is rumored to be. So you might be seeing a Superman television series sometime soon. I think it would be interesting. They're also filming in Smallville, apparently.
Yeah, the rumor is on also that they haven't said who, will play him, but Lex Luthor will eventually make an appearance.
No, they've actually already confirmed that Lex Luthor is going to show up in the next season of Supergirl. So, all kinds of characters that are going to be familiar. They're really getting a lot of like major characters from the Superman universe for Supergirl. So good for them. Okay, next story. Oh, this one's a little sad. After 2 years of anime streaming bliss, Crunchyroll and Funimation are parting ways. If you know who those people are, those companies, shame on you. Those are good companies. Crunchyroll is essentially the premier way of getting anime in the United States. Like they're the major player where you get it from a streaming service. You can get it on your phones, on your television, on your computers, and essentially it's same day streaming. So all this stuff, not all this stuff, but like a good selection of stuff that's being aired live in Japan, as far as anime goes, is being subtitled and then aired the same day or simultaneously in the United States. And so they've kind of been the go-to place to go to get a collection of like all the really recent stuff, like the stuff that's playing the exact same season, but also a good catalog of stuff from other companies. And that included Funimation. And you recognize a bunch of Funimation titles, including like Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. Those are all very popular, more recent anime programs. And apparently Funimation is going to be doing its own thing. Remember, Funimation is owned by Sony, and Sony's streaming service is going to be coming out soon. They're going to be doing a $5.99 per month subscription service, and they're going to include all the Funimation stuff that they have. So they want content like another streaming service. And they're going to have Cowboy Bebop, Space Dandy, Yu Yu Hakusho, Assassination Classroom, Snow White, and a bunch of other things like on the back catalog, including Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball Z.
I thought they were going to just add the content onto... No worries. Well, in my mind, I was thinking they were going to just add content to the Sony Crackle. I don't know if you heard of it or watched Crackle, because Crackle by itself was a downloading service with a lot of free movie content, but it wasn't exactly the most popular kind of things that they're showing on. So, are you familiar with the Sony Crackle brand?
Yeah, I know Crackle. I have VRV. I subscribe to that, and one of the things that they have added in there is Crackle in addition to Funimation and a bunch of other things. So I've seen Crackle shows before, and they're just kind of hit or miss some funny stuff.
I thought they were just going to add on the animation stuff. Hi, Bebe. I thought they were just going to add the animation to the Sony Crackle kind of thing, but I guess they want its own.
They want
thing.
exclusivity essentially because, like any kind of product, just like Netflix, a lot of the subscribers come fully exclusively for like the Marvel products, the Marvel television shows. You can't see anywhere else. So Sony's kind of doing something, and that's unfortunate because Crunchyroll has done a really great job providing consistent content.
Full episodes, full seasons, back to back, so you could actually binge on the whole thing and not miss out. But now with this changing, gonna have to look elsewhere.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Okay, next bit of news, we get some new photos from the set of the new Batman film, or the new Joker film, I should say. The Joker in several costumes, but also in a police cruiser, and more surprising to most people, you get to see the Batmobile, or at least a version of it, on set, and it looks like more like the 1966 Batmobile than anything else. I'm not sure if it's going to be Batman in there at some point, or if it's going to be the Joker messing around with a Batman-esque vehicle.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a museum piece, or for some apparent reason you're going to see a little cameo of a Adam West-like kind of Batman. I was thinking that
maybe the Joker, he's just trolling around. He's trolling Batman at this point. That's my hypothesis. It's completely unsubstantiated by any evidence. But the Joker, I feel like he was arrested after like crashing, having either stolen a museum piece or created his own kind of Batmobile. And just like, haha, look, me being funny in the 1966 version of a Batmobile without acknowledging that particular series at all.
Yeah, because his clothes still to be screamed like 70s kind of attire.
Yeah, it's definitely clownish. And this would be like the beginning of his career show where he's clown makeup regular criminal without being too crazy yet.
Yeah, because there's a storyline where the Joker supposedly was a stand-up comedian, and eventually I wonder if they're going to introduce the chemical bath of
I figure at some point they might do. Yeah, at some point I think they will. But we'll have to wait and see. But just some new photos, interesting, all kinds of great interesting hypothesis and the internet from the fanboys.
Well, obviously Halloween is around the corner. We're just about a week away. I wonder how many people are going to don that costume for Halloween.
Probably not as many. Otherwise, they'll look like just those creepy clowns that were like scaring children everywhere. Because nothing here screams Joker yet. It doesn't have an iconic look. That people are going to recognize. I don't think they're going to reveal that particular final Joker look until the actual first trailer of the film.
Now, they've shown him smile, semi-laughing, but have they had an actual audio of his laugh?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because it was like everybody wanted
close
to
to
hear
like
the laugh.
him looking in chain and like going from regular Joaquin Phoenix look to Joker look, or versions of it, and then also for Domino character, the actress's real name, the character played Domino. She's also in the film. They show that transformation as well for her regular and her character mode. So good stuff there. Oh, and last but not least, folks, in the regular news section, I should say, just for fun, a fan film that pits the Power Rangers against Street Fighter. It's also a secret ad for an iPhone game called Power Rangers Infinity, I think. But it's actually really fun. I thought it was interesting. And here's another ad for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
He's trying to get into the Hearthstone
Card game
stuff. Yeah.
So Power Rangers Legacy Wars, Street Fighter Showdown.
Oh no, and this is super fun and interesting. I actually really enjoyed this. Let me see if we can stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. It was an interesting take. It's pretty much, if you see those Bat in the Sun, it's pretty much, I think it's that company that like recorded or filmed it. So they got some of the original Power Rangers from this series. You notice the suits.
Like it says, and they're like Tommy, Ryu. Like they recognize Tommy's voice in the under the suit, basically.
Exactly.
So it's basically a couple Street Fighters were teleported from their world into ours because M. Bison was resurrected by Rita Repulsa, and she's powering him up and giving him a copy Power Ranger army to fight. And so it's actually really good action stuff, good martial arts stuff.
Good
a few of the
CG.
fights are a little like, oh, Tommy's getting old, and he's slowing down a little bit, but good CGI stuff, good stuff actually.
Yeah, and right now I think it's in the 25th anniversary of the Power Rangers, so he's even on the current version of the TV show. He is making an appearance. They are kind of more or less resurrecting some of the old
Well, yeah,
Rangers.
Tommy's actually getting his own comic series as well, like with like an alternate version of like, oh, Tommy, if he had gone bad.
No, it's funky on this take, especially because it's pretty much a mashup, let's be honest. And the ultimate mashup is Ryu getting a morpher and becoming a Ranger himself.
And that's totally towards the end of this. But yeah, there's definitely fun stuff. You see multiple versions of the Power Rangers. I don't know the blonde chick, but I know Tommy, obviously.
Yeah.
You see him Bison. You see them. He gets a new power coin at some point, and he turns into Power Ranger Ryu.
So he has his bandana part of his helmet.
I think they're like, oh, he's the Red Falcon Power Ranger. I'm like, okay, sure, why not?
He reminds me of what was I can't think of the animation series, but what was those bird guys?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
they're a bunch of birds, and they have like ray guns and stuff.
Exactly, that's what the outfit reminds me. Like they're trying too much of an effort though to make it a like Green Ranger ish.
Sort of. He also has this bandana still on his helmet, which doesn't make sense since it's not holding up his hair anymore.
And they give him the armor, but they still give him like boxing gloves kind of thing. It's just pretty much like a really bad version. Like even if they were to make that toy, that figure, I'd pass.
No, it's very specific, and I guess why they're doing it for the storyline. Oh, look, it's a Street Fighter with a Power Ranger coin.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? I think it sucks that Chun-Li's like just hanging out by the side with the regular powers.
Exactly. I don't get a suit.
Yeah, it's like sexist.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I guess even if they were to make a like legit version, like a Marvel vs. Capcom, throwing in the Power Rangers, no.
Well, yeah, they've done it before, but it kind of goes in like the crossover stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing like an actual cartoon film version that's where they can kind of go out on the special effects. But this is pretty decent. I'm like, oh, this is really good actually, and it's 7 minutes long. It's a nice. It's a short film, so it's entertaining the entire way through. I had a good time with it.
My only question is, obviously, you got Ryu as a ranger. I wonder what his Megazord would be.
Yeah, that's what I thought. At the end, they're going to make, oh, you think you defeated me? This is just the beginning. And I thought M. Bison was going to get giant. Yeah. Although you do see the Dragon Zord in there, and like a small little cameo in the transition scenes between them. So I thought that was like, oh, that's neat at least. Get to see one Zoid.
But I definitely would have wanted to see Chun-Li in a ranger outfit at least, too.
I think they just would have went blue already. Yeah. But anyways, it's fine. So there we go. So there's all the fun stuff from the news. We have a movie trailer showdown, and then the show's over. We have 4 new trailers for you folks, and we're going to see which one is the best according to us. And we're going to begin with The Kid Who Would Be King. And this is again a take on the man who would be king, Sword in the Stone. Arthur. Yeah, set in England. Kid who's bullied. Takes it upon himself, and he finds this magical sword, and he accidentally unleashes the apocalypse. I thought that was kind of a neat twist on it. Like, oh, him getting the sword starts off like this bad, demon events being summoned kind of thing, instead of just like, oh, it's a cool little blade. And then Merlin shows up as a teenager, and it's like I said, genuinely super cute. It kind of feels like a superhero-ish version of the King Arthur mythology.
It's definitely a kid's flick in the ways, and you can tell how modernized it is now. Not just because the multiple ethnicities of the cast that's there, but also the technology. Because that's how you're going to tell that this movie's going to be dated by that. But they have quite a bit of a budget because the effects on this. They got money.
Yeah, it feels a little like, Percy Jackson. How Percy Jackson tried to modernize Greek mythology. This is modernizing for children Arthurian mythology. And I think this one is more entertaining than Percy Jackson ever was because it feels like the kids get to be children here, at least in some respect. They're not like young adult and that weird cusp between like teenage, like these 30-year-old actors who are playing teenagers. These are all actual children, and I think for me that kind of makes a difference as far as like it being genuine and entertaining and having like that to it.
I was wondered about the whole theory with the sword. Obviously, it's a sword in the stone. Is like, don't you just chip away the stone and eventually get the sword? But the whole, I guess, concept of the legend is you have to pull the sword, the worthy one.
Yeah, it's magic.
It's the equivalent of Thor's hammer, only the one that is worthy.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's supposed to be. But yeah, good stuff. I thought, like I said, good special effects. I'm genuinely surprised how much I'm interested in watching. It's like, oh, this is a great family film. You can watch with your kids. It's one of our, but it's also interesting. Yeah. Okay, up next is Aladdin, and this is more of a teaser trailer because it's not coming out till next year, like middle of next year. And for beat, it definitely reminds me of the Aladdin trailer. Like you have that big opening desert scene from the beginning.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm hearing the theme song like. Yeah, totally. And you see Iago. I don't know if he will be voiced or not by Mr. Gilbert Gottfried. And of course, Will Smith's supposed to be the genie.
He is the genie, which they don't show because they're saving that for later. Yeah. But you definitely see. Hipster Aladdin.
Yeah. The glimpse of it, he looks like a young John Leguizamo to me.
Does he? I thought he looked like a hipster to me. Did I already miss it? I think I skipped it already. Let's see.
Well, in your mind, I don't know what a hipster looks like.
Well, no, it was just kind of like this weird beardy look that he has, like this half beard.
Did he?
And he has like this hat on his head that looks like
the fez.
It's supposed to be a fez, but I'm in the animated version, you see more of his hair, and so this one like covers up most of it, like, and it's just the back end of it, and so it looks like hipster Aladdin to me. Like, if we look at that, but
because in my mind, a hipster, I'm thinking black, thick framed glasses, a beard, an infinity scarf, drinking a Starbucks drink.
But he has like this weird half beard. It's not like a full.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock.
He has
shadow.
Like 9 o'clock shadow, but like weird hairline here, so it looks like one of those like hoodies
and they
like caps.
Yeah, he's definitely aged, so he's not like a teenager,
right? But to me, it looks like hipster Aladdin. I'm like, we'll have to wait and see if that's where they're going with that. I mean, it just could be brown guy with the beard.
I want to see if that fashion statement's going to make a comeback of guys wearing vests again.
I don't know if it's ever gone out of fashion as far as like grown-ups with suits, but yeah. Next is Pet Sematary. I was actually genuinely surprised that I wasn't annoyed with this.
Exactly,
because a lot of these like reading horror films, they go super gory, and this one didn't necessarily. It still maintained creepy.
Suspense.
Yeah, suspense. It kept creepy at a very nice pace. Now, and it's like, oh, okay.
Now educate me on.
And they basically tell you like, oh, that kid's gonna get ran over at some point.
Now educate me on this, because obviously I have not seen the original. But what is there a take or a play on the word of the spelling cemetery with an S instead of a C? Does it stand for something else, or does it mean something else
or something? I don't know. I don't recall that. I mean, this is actually based on like a book. I think it's a Stephen King book. But in the original movie, like they go there. I think it's an Indian burial ground for pet cemeteries.
Yeah, because on this one, the video, they make it look like very cult-like.
Yeah, and it's basically like, if you bury something there, it comes back to life, but it comes back like evil. And it first starts off with the cat dying, and then like the kid dies. It's like some tragic circumstance. They bury him, and he comes back and he starts murdering the family. And eventually, and then this is only spoiler because this movie's been out like decades, folks. Yeah. But eventually, the kid murders the wife. And kills the mom, and the guy's like stricken with grief, and so he. Like the very last scene is like him burying the lady, and then coming back home, and she comes into the door like looking like she dug herself out of the grave with like a knife in her back that he can't see, and he's just happy to see her. And that's like the big thing, like, oh, it doesn't matter no matter how much you love something, coming back from the dead is going to turn them into murderers and
Well, you
stuff.
definitely got my interest now, so I'm probably.
Yeah, it's definitely super creepy, scary. It's not like it wasn't, at least in the original version, super like gory.
Yeah, because to me, a good horror story is the suspense, the build up for it, not just like blood and guts kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
and he
and it's
cuts
like
his
they're
throat
also
and all
bringing
that.
in like some cultish, like
Yeah.
weird kids. I want to say like all those kids that you see are all undead. I think that's going to be like a thing for them.
Good
Like
twist.
like they're trying to replicate because they were all brought back at some point, and that's why their faces are covered because you can't, otherwise you can see that they're undead.
They're probably like zombie-ish.
Yeah, something like that. But we'll have to wait. But again, not super gory, which is like, oh, this might be worth a watch.
Yeah.
And last but not least, this is I just thought this was a good video game. This is a video game trailer, but it has more famous people than all the other movies combined.
Exactly, and especially until I realized it was a game.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is like their Final Fantasy, and
This is
just
definitely
replacing all these live
CGI
actors.
famous. And like, we'll listen to the audio in this combined. Hope they don't sue us. But like, you have Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, Gary Oldman, and even Gimli from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
All kinds of cameos and voiceovers, man.
And they look like themselves, like live action versions of themselves, even though it's LCG'd.
I saw you apply to the flight
But it's
academy.
definitely cutscene feel. Like, I think this is definitely going to be on the PlayStation console, maybe
I'm
on the
your wingman,
Xbox.
sir.
Yeah, and these are all cutscenes, so like they're all like gonna look pretty.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate thing is like they show a little bit of gameplay towards the end.
Oh yeah, definitely good budget.
But yeah, the CGI is like they can afford good actors, good cameos, good name. I'm like, geez.
Like, honestly, this
Scum
could be
using
pulled off
covered
as a
launch
movie.
attacks.
They've done it with Final Fantasy.
This is
I don't see
there
why they
too,
not they
so
go
move
this
on.
route.
Keep your eyes open.
Yeah, and you can hear Mark Hamill's voice there.
Yeah.
So like they definitely have a budget here. So I'm like I hope it's just not one of those games where they spend all the money on
The
their
hell are you?
cutscenes and they sucked on the actual game,
The actual gameplay
Yeah.
sucks and all that.
LMC.
or if it's like super flat. I'm like, oh, that would
belongs to Sony.
because this looks like it has promise.
Yeah, it definitely has a good build up and feel like you want to know what it's all about.
Yeah, and when we skip a little forward, you get to see like the aliens coming in, space fighters coming through,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there you go.
So
So you got 4 trailers, man. Which one did you like the best?
honestly, the Pet Cemetery got my attention, but I think I want to see the original before I would get see the remake on it.
Sure.
But the kid in me, Aladdin.
Oh, okay, so I actually went for the kid who would be king, and that was my favorite. For similar reasons, the kid in me wanted to see that movie.
Yeah.
I've seen Aladdin. I'm not super enthused about a live action version.
Yeah.
So that's it for the show, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, if you want to support the podcast in any way, shape, or form, find all the ways to do so at
GeekBytesPodcast.com/support.
absolutely. And thanks for listening and for watching, folks. For Geek Bytes Podcast, I'm Ramon Mejia.
I'm Edgardo Acosta.
Remember, folks, to go geek out about something.